Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to this meeting of Council, the 18th of February 2025. I'll ask everyone to turn your phones off or put them on silent or on flight mode or similar so that we don't get interrupted during the meeting. Councillors, staff and people in the gallery, please. Recordings of council meetings or part thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused or transmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. This meeting is being recorded and will be made publicly available on Council's website. Persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory remarks or comments. Thank you. Council acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people, and we respect the history and culture of elders, both past and present. We have a prayer. Would someone like to do the prayer this evening? We have no one delegated. Clive?
Give it a go.
All right. All right. We all stand, please.
Dear Lord, let's be thankful for the freedom we have in Australia, and let's hope wisdom and direction comes out of the meeting tonight. Leave it at that. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Record of attendance, we have 8 councillors present, so all present and no apologies. 5 is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I have a declaration of interest in respect to 1311. I'm the chairman of the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority and I receive an income for doing that. So it's pecuniary but insignificant in relation to that matter. Any other declarations of interest? Okay, we go to 6 presentations. And I ask Kylie from Arts Out West to provide a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight, Mayor and councillors. And
I'm Frank, sorry, as well.
yes, I was about to introduce Frank, which I'm sure most of you would know, I'm sure. My name is Kylie. I'm the Executive Director at Arts Out West, and Fran is our Vice Chair and the Oberon representative to Arts Out West as well, and has been an extraordinary Chair and Vice Chair for many years. She knows more about Arts Out West than I think I ever will. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people on whose land we work at Arts Out West, and acknowledge any elders, past, present, and emerging here today. I'm going to go fairly quickly through this because I know you've got a lot to get through tonight, and I will be sending some follow-up information to council. So there'll be some links and things that I'll send through. Arts Out West has recently changed, just updated our mission. We advocate for, support and develop meaningful arts and cultural opportunities across the Central West New South Wales communities. We work with 12 local government areas from Lithgow through to the Lachlan Shire, so right through to Condo, up to Mudgee and down to Grenfell in Wendon. We have a board of directors, one from the Oberon region, who I mentioned earlier. We have an advisory committee, so that's made up of representatives from each LGA and from CSU. We have 2 full-time staff working across that region, myself and our Aboriginal Arts Development Officer, and 5 part-time staff, and quite a few casuals. And you can look at our reports online, and we can provide any information about that sort of thing that you would like. We'll move on. Thank you, Sharon. In our financial year is a calendar year. So in 2023, we actually made a little bit of a profit because we got an extra bit of grant money from Create New South Wales, which was fabulous, which we've now spent on arts projects in the region. And you'll see that very shortly. Currently our finances are being audited, so when those become available, they get sent across to council so you can have a look at where we're at. We receive funding from federal, state and state government and contribution from each of the council areas. Thank you. Our core business is to arts sector development, to assist artists, arts organisations and councils across the region to create cultural opportunities for our communities. Our strategic areas, Aboriginal arts, arts and health, cultural tourism, and previously music industry support. We've just updated at the end of last year our strategic plan. And if you could go to the next one, Sharon, our new strategic areas are what we're calling creative focus areas in Aboriginal arts, arts and health, cultural tourism, and what we're now calling creative communities, creative people, which is essentially where our core business sits of helping the arts flourish in our region. Thank you. I feel like I'm going at double speed. Sorry. Our Aboriginal Arts Development program has been going for many years. Arts Out West is the oldest regional arts office in New South Wales, and I think we've had a full-time Aboriginal arts officer for longer than any of the other regions as well. And that really shows in the quality of the work in our regions, and where we see it is when we do sales. We do sales with other arts organisations from across the state, and more work is sold for coming out of our region than any others, which I'm not competitive at all, but I think I'm proud of. We are the curators of the QE Gallery at Hartley, where we curate work into that gallery and sell work on behalf of Aboriginal artists from across the region. That's a partnership with National Parks. So they own the building. We don't have to deal with any of those costs. They own the building, they manage it from day to day, and we curate work into that gallery. We also represent Aboriginal artists at the National Indigenous Art Fair, or we don't. My beautiful Aboriginal arts officer, Felicia Lonsdale, who's photographed up there, she does a lot of that work. She's amazing. She was awarded by New South Wales State Government to go to the Venice Biennale a couple of years ago. She's incredibly highly respected in that visual arts and curation world. In 2025, we've got a critical writing program, which was that we're working with the Aboriginal Arts Alliance and the Regional Arts Fund to present in our region. And the reason we're doing that is because we really feel there's a lack of critical writing happening in the region around visual arts work. And so we're always looking for where are there gaps in the region and what can we do to help that. We're working on an Aboriginal Arts Trail. We're always running workshops and professional development opportunities throughout the year for all artists, not just Aboriginal artists, but there is a stream for the Aboriginal artists as well. And we always working to support lands councils, elders and community groups. In 2025, we are also developing our own Aboriginal arts reference group. So working with our board and arts organisations across the region. Thank you. So I assume someone's going to give me a call when I'm running out of time. Arts and health is a big part of what Arts Out West has done, and I'm sure many of you will have heard Fran speak about our arts and health program. I know she has huge soft spots for it, and she's one of our amazing people who is on the ground helping us present these works. Recently, we've completed a mental health and drug and alcohol program. Mental health, drug and alcohol program. We've done a project at Baptist Hospital. We're providing ongoing advice and support for the refurbishment of some of the hospital spaces, Blaney, Cowra and Dubbo. And we've run the Brewing Ballads and Being Well program through with RAB. So many of you would know Sonia Cox. And hopefully we'll be rolling that out a bit further. And that program was actually about getting men in pubs to talk about mental health. We wrapped it around having a beer and writing a song, but it's quite a lovely little project. And yeah, as I said, looking to do that again soon. We've got a new project that's actually been trialled here in Oberon at the moment called Stray. And Stray makes me really emotional. It is a sensory puppet that we take into aged care, and the residents get to talk about their own pet experiences, and they name Stray, who comes in as a stray dog. I think the dog in Oberon is called Ring, because somebody's dog was called Ring, who is a resident at the aged care centre. So there's some fantastic videos, and I will send the links through to council. I really advise you to have a look at those, and I'd love to know if you cry, because every time I see them, I cry. Yeah, the aged care music program. We're just doing some advice and support around a new project around having music in aged care centres as well. There we go, next one. Cultural tourism is a big part of what Arts at West has been doing, and I was actually speaking to the mayor just before this meeting and saying that we've just been offered a new project, or part two of a project to take the lead on a statewide cultural tourism project, and that has come out of the work that we've done over the last 10 years or so of working in cultural tourism. And Arts Out West, we work with the joint organisation of councils, the tourism managers across the region to assist and develop and communicate. And we've developed something called culture maps, and you can go online and look at culture maps, and it shows all the different arts experiences in your area, in the whole region. And that divides it up into, you can look for Aboriginal arts experiences, you can look for homemade arts experiences, you can look for murals, and of course in Oberon, there's quite a few of those listed on the culture, on the site, and please go and have a look. We're also always saying to councils, please let us know if there's any changes to your public art, because we need to make sure we update all of that and keep it as up to date as we can. We also have worked on a report that's just come out about cultural tourism, and we've got a couple of copies, and I'll send links through to the councillors as well about that. So there has been a statewide report about cultural tourism, which is comparing, looking at all the data and then really thinking about how does arts and culture fit into that big picture of tourism, and what can we do to support and develop that further in our regions. Because we know when people come to communities, they stay and look at the galleries, and they go to the small artist studios to have a look. And so we want to make more of that. Creative communities, creative people. These are the things that we do almost from day to day, and we don't often share this, but we are available for your staff at council, for artists in the community, to answer questions, information and resources, talk about funding, provide letters of support, any education opportunities, working with schools even, looking at what funding application might fit your project. We're available for all of that. We also auspice projects for artists, so if they need someone to help them manage their money on a project, we can also do that. We do statewide projects with the regional arts development officers from across the state. There is 15 of us, and we're all individual organisations that work together as a network. We are a small team, and we cover all art forms. So if you are doing it and making it in your shed, we can probably talk to you about it. Recently, we supported Fish River Festival late last year, and we also helped them do some audience development work through surveys. So we have those kinds of skills in all sorts of areas. We've got our fingers in lots of pies. Just a project we recently finished, but it's kind of a nice little case study. This project started during COVID. We supported musicians, artists to help give musicians some work during COVID and some funding that we got. The musicians were commissioned to write and record work for an album that was actually recorded here in O'Connell. In 2021, then Visual Arts responded to the recordings, and then we toured that exhibition through the region. It came to Oberon in May of 23. I'll be slightly wrong on that. And then we finished that up by taking that exhibition to Parliament House. In Parliament House, in 3.5 weeks, 4,000 people saw that exhibition. So we think that was a pretty good success. And we also took over they call it the Reconciliation Wall, and had Aboriginal art from our region. It was beautiful. That whole project over all that time, I think about 10,000 people viewed that exhibition across the Central West and in Sydney. Quite happy with that. From a little project that started about supporting some musicians in COVID. And that's the way we like to work. We like to see things out as far as we can, make the most of every opportunity that we are given and that we can give to artists in the region. I think recent Oberon activity, our cultural tourism project, which I mentioned before, has been ongoing. We're doing something called the Plinth Show, and that's taking art into visitor centres so that tourists can see it. So that we're having conversations with your tourism officers because often they're the people on the ground, and we decided we needed to get to know them a bit better. And as I say, that's a good reminder of all the staff at council to please use us. We're a resource for your community. We presented Stage Fright at Malachi Gilmore Hall last year. That tour is actually still going because halfway through the tour, company all got COVID. So we had to actually cancel the last couple of gigs, and so we've still got those coming up, which has been annoying, but continues. And that was because we wanted to see whether we could, as a little organisation, help artists tour our region and go into smaller halls that don't normally get theatre or don't get a lot of it. We also have gear. So we have those plinths which are sitting there, and we can loan those to councils, and we have monitors and things like that. So councils need gear for extra things, and Oberon has certainly made use of some of that equipment, which is fantastic. And we do small grants throughout whenever we can, whenever we've got the opportunity to do that, as well as through the CASP program. CASP will change next year because state government has changed the way we get funded. And I'm actually hoping that we will have more money for CASP in the future. This year we had something like 41 applications for CASP and an ask of over $200,000, and we had 17 to provide to the communities, which is not a lot. Yeah, I think that's kind of, is that me, Nellie? Yes. Oh, 41 applications. There we go, talking about CASP. We have an Arts Out West has a partnership with the foundations, and we're looking to provide more residency programs for artists coming up. That's just started. We've just literally been looking at the MOU for that. We have some professional development opportunities coming up soon. We're creating an online creatives database and linking that to our culture maps. And our annual regional gathering, which happens every year, will be happening in Lachlan this year. That goes through the alphabet of our 12 LGAs. So what we've got OP. So you're after Lithgow, you'll be the next one. So in a few years we'll be having that in Oberon. So let's start planning on what kind of a party we can have here. That's pretty much me. I think that's me in a nutshell, really. I'm more than happy to send some more links through to you and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, council's questions.
Yeah, thanks, Kylie. That was a great presentation. I noticed with your 50 years celebration for this year, well, last year. Will there be any more exhibitions like the last exhibition at Malachi with all the artworks? Because that was fantastic and the community adored that.
Yeah, look, we're always looking for other opportunities, and we do have our Media Associates little exhibition that we've kind of taken in and out of different places at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there will be. I can't tell you what they will be and when they'll be coming, but it's just a case of when we can fit it into the calendar. Yeah,
It's been discussed and it is.
Yeah.
In plan.
Because that's
The Media Associates one started out at Forbes as part of our celebrations for our 50 year, and that one has since been in parks. So yeah.
Other questions? Councillors? Thank you very much, Kylie. Thank you, Fran. And if you could send through those links, that'd be great.
Absolutely will do. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Item 7 is questions from the public. The public gallery is open to members of the community. And members of the public wishing to address council are permitted to do so, providing the following guidelines are adhered to. 1, the person asking the question at council meeting must clearly state their name and in what capacity they are acting. 2, if the person asking the question is acting as another person or organisation's agent, they must advise council if they have their prior consent or authority. Due to time constraints, a time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated. Question from the public is not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It is an opportunity for the community to ask a question in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to an issue that may be causing interest or concerns. All questions and comments must be directed through me as the mayor. And if an answer cannot be given, it will be taken on notice and a response given within a reasonable period. Are there any questions from the public, please? Thank you, sir.
Wayne Woodward, from Humphreys Drive. But just wanted to speak on DA 2024-056. I'd like to present those out so people can see a picture shows 1,000 words. Well, as you can see there, with this new development,
This is item 13.4, councillors.
the road is going to come off Humphreys Road, up along my side fence, and then up over our neighbour's hill. And I've got all my water tanks and everything in the roof there. And I'm very worried about the winds coming from the west will blow all the dust into my tanks. And that's our water that we've got to have to drink and everything. And we've actually sealed our road so that dust couldn't come there. And actually our neighbour has concrete driveways to stop the dust from blowing into our place. And with that development, I think if it should go through, it will be extension of Humphreys Drive to get to those houses. So I think that should be sealed if it is approved. And I know that Andrew Humphreys, that had that block before, when he tried to get it developed, he couldn't break it up any smaller than what it was. So I don't know what happened there with that. But that is my main concern, that this road should be sealed all the way through. And also the person who has this block has dumped dirt in there, and we've been asking if it has been certified to be dumped there, and we haven't got any answers back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the public, please?
Hi, my name's Natasha Bennett. I'm asking a question about the same issue. They have put in a proposal for this is my phone. About the trees that are going to be put along the fence line. Just wondering what size they're actually going to be, and how long before the development, if it is approved, will start to stop the dirt that's going to be coming straight along our fence line and into obviously my tanks, my clothesline. And also, is there going to be a stipulation on the houses that can be built? Are they just going to be singles level, or are they going to be allowed to be double story? And definitely about the sealed road, like I think it definitely needs to be sealed if it's going to be approved.
Thank you. Sorry, next one, thanks.
Hello, my name's Michelle.
Michelle.
I've got something to read because I'm hopeless with words. As a member of the Oberon Aboriginal Community Group, I've been inundated with complaints regarding Councillor Hayden's motion 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. The local Aboriginal organisation that support the Oberon Aboriginal community have submitted formal letters in opposition of these motions, which I believe councillors have copies of. The Oberon Aboriginal Community Group have consulted with 7 family groups residing in Oberon, and not one person has shown support for Councillor Hayden's motions. However, they have voiced their distress in Councillor Hayden's unsafe cultural views. They feel Councillor Hayden's views will cause division in the local community. The Oberon Aboriginal Community Group would like to ask councillors to vote no to all 3 motions. Councillor Hayden does not speak for me or the wider community of Oberon. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, Mike.
Good evening, Michael Kantaris, resident, tax ratepayer. I just want to find out, there was a project last year regarding the Scotch Bloom up, I think it was last year anyway. Just want to know whether that project was successful. From what I can see from where they did do some work, that some of the Scotch Bloom has perished, which is great. I just want to see if that project is going to be continuing. Whether that was it an Oberon council or was it I don't know who was involved with that, but some of the outbreaks further along in the reserve behind our place is actually quite out of control. So that's the first thing. If that is a program that can be continued, that'd be great. And secondly,
Sorry, was that along a roadway?
yeah, it is going down towards the dam, but if you actually go into the bush itself, down towards Lake Oberon, there's huge amounts of Scotch Bloom down along the foreshore of the dam down that way. And it's patchy through those, but it's really quite dense in certain parts. So again, I'm just wondering whether that was a project that could help that part of the bush. And secondly, again, there's some really big logs that have fallen across, not logs, big trees that have fallen over the years across some of the fire trails that are going through the bush at the back of the reserve, and whether that can be looked at. It was several years ago when I was actually there in town when bulldozers came through and cleared it all up at one stage, but that's quite a few years ago, and there's quite a few big trees that have fallen across some of those fire trails. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. We'll get back to respect to those two questions. Another question, please. Thank you.
Yeah, look, my name's Peter Dykes. I live in Oberon, secretary of an Aboriginal organisation. I'd like to speak to encourage you to oppose the motion 10.1, 10.2 and 10.3. I've owned a property here for over 40 years and I'm now secretary of the organisation that manages it. I don't know whether many people are aware, but Oberon Shire Council was one of only 4 councils in the whole of New South Wales that never flew the Aboriginal flag in the International Year of Indigenous Peoples. And there are a lot more councils than there are now. I've worked in Aboriginal affairs for probably on and off for 40 years, and it's been a struggle. Recognition of this country prior ownership is really important. Most of you sitting around the table here, and included around here, are all of European descent. A lot of you have have ancestors that come from Great Britain. Great Britain was only first settled by modern man 15,000 years ago. Aboriginal people walked onto this continent 70,000 years ago. That we can't acknowledge that huge. They were here before the first peoples of the Americas, and were here before most of central, northern British Isles were settled. And here, not just a few years, but up to 50,000 years before. So that acknowledgement of country is really important. It recognises that and it brings us all together. To do away with it and is, in my view, a backward step. Sure, we lost the referendum. You win some, you lose some. But this is something that we should not lose. It's something really important and it binds this nation together, past and present. And I deeply oppose what's been put here. I've worked as an employment officer, as an ecologist, and in the 40 odd years we've had to come a long way. Married twice. My first wife, her mother was from, they were from Condobolin. And when a lady from the government department called out in Orange, she'd only been in the house one day to see how she was going. By 5 o'clock, she was on the train back to Condobolin. So scared was she of government. And that experience, there will be many people here with whose parents, grandparents would have had similar experience. Acknowledgement of country is bringing us together. Now, okay, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a rocky road, but not to have to do away with it today would only create further divisions. So I'd like to ask you to reject these 3 motions. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Any other questions from public? Yes, thank you.
Hello, Council. My name's Bridie. I'm a proud Wiradjuri woman from the local area, Central West, born and raised. I'm also a youth ambassador of the Uluru Dialogue. I thank you for allowing me the chance to speak on agenda items 10.1 and 10.3. While the 2023 voice referendum result, which is used as a basis for items 10.1 and 10.3, was disappointing for me and many other Indigenous peoples, we acknowledge that the outcome was no. However, it's important to address a few key points in relation to the referendum. The first being that independent research conducted post-referendum has shown that a majority of people went to the voting box not knowing that a majority of Indigenous people supported this. This was one of the lines used by the No campaign to prosecute the no vote. However, 83% of First Nations people were recorded as supporting the voice in the lead up, and polling results after the fact have shared the same data. So just for a brief overview, I'll give you a few quick statistics from some of our most remote communities in the country. Palm Islands, where Indigenous people make up 93% of the population, 75% yes vote. Yarrabah, 96% Indigenous community, 75.7% yes vote. In the NT, 19 out of 20 remote polling booths recorded an overwhelming yes vote. Additionally, the research has shown that another key part of the No campaign's argument was that the voice would divide us along the lines of race. This argument was a deliberate deception, as the Constitution in its current form already divides Australians based on race, with section 51(26) allowing Parliament to make laws for the people of any race for whom it is deemed necessary to make special laws. This power has typically been used against Indigenous people, so the idea that we would be divided in our country's founding document, it's already happening. Anyone, politician or otherwise, that says different isn't accurately representing community, as we've heard tonight. While the referendum, while focused on a constitutionally enshrined voice, was never in relation to anything else, not an acknowledgement to country, not a state voice, I would also note that a state voice is not currently on the reform agenda either. As the Closing the Gap statistics released last week indicate, we need serious change to ensure Indigenous communities are on par with the rest of the nation in areas like healthcare and housing. Motions like this relating to a reform that isn't even on the agenda in New South Wales do nothing but fearmonger and cause harm. My question is, why weren't local community consulted on agenda items 10.1 through to 10.3, and whether council feel these motions should truly go ahead without the support of the local Indigenous community? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions this evening? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Scott. I'm Wiradjuri. As you know, it's the Wiradjuri people. That name of meeting tonight. Obviously, the director of the Uluru Dialogue. I was also the director of the Referendum Council, which is considered the referendum. And when these items come up, I'm speaking about 10.1, 10.2 and 10.3, we feel we have to correct the record. One thing that did come out of the referendum and the debates before it was the amount of misinformation. And for council to consider things that have been going based on misinformation is something we're trying to come here tonight to correct. Not the thought, please, but we'd like people to be informed. As previously mentioned by other speakers, and I acknowledge the other speakers, The referendum was two things. It was simple and straightforward. It was to recognise Aboriginal people in the Constitution and give Aboriginal Torres Strait people a say in matters that affect them, nothing else. And to suggest that it was about banning wealth in the country, banning acknowledgements and banning truth telling is disingenuous at best, and at worst it's just mischievous and outright lie. Wealth in the country's acknowledgements and truth telling is about courtesy and respect in unity. One thing I was listening about in the last few weeks, current debates in this country, I was listening to videos of the voices of the Holocaust survivors who are telling their truths. They still do it today. They do it because they have a right to, and they have a right to be listened to. They remind us of history, so we don't forget and we learn. That's what truth telling is about, and that's what we should be doing. There's one of the motions mentioned in the papers was the amount of the referendum cost. 400 million is a lot of money. It wasn't the Labor Party put that together. It wasn't someone else, the campaigns. That's what our framers and the people who actually voted for and passed our constitution put in place. They put in place a process where the Australian people only could vote on amending the constitution. That costs money. Democracy is not cheap. I don't think we should cheapen it by having these insinuations that it's a waste of money. Democracy comes at a cost, but it's important. That's what makes this country one of the best countries in the world. The other point I want to make here about the referendum itself is that with the loss of the referendum, nothing changed. The existing programs, existing responses remain the same. The No campaign had no alternatives and no ways of addressing it. So we lapse back into doing things the same way. I think most Australians will be appalled. We've got 5 or 6 decades of significant amounts of money and commitment going to try and resolve issues that face Aboriginal and Torres Strait people. With the outcomes are not there. An indictment on all of us, and I think every taxpayer will want to say, well, why? The referendum was an attempt to fix that. We don't have that fix now. We've got to try some other way. That's the indictment of us all doing it. To give you that an example of it, we have no way forward. The program's failed. But I won't go into others. Time's almost up. But there was issues about what they are. I mean, my current job is I'm CEO of Just Reinvestment, which is investing in kids to keep them out of jail. Just as one figure we're talking at the moment, do you know how many the percentage of Aboriginal kids are in our jails? 72% of all children in jail are Aboriginal. In the adult prison, 37% of all people in jail are Aboriginal. People think that's normal. Those figures for health, housing, justice are being normalised. We don't get outraged by it, we accept it. We can't accept that's the way forward. So I'm just making those points that we have to do better. But we're addressing all the fundamentals here in these 3 motions, which are based on misinformation and lies, which the No campaign was based on. It's fact. And I think even I have the opportunity to have this say about those matters. This level of government is the closest to the community, and having this debate at this level gives us the opportunity to correct that record. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public this evening?
I'm Vicky. I'm here in regards to 13.6. I'd just like to know why a development application for a motocross track is being recommended for approval when the acoustic report does not clearly define the acoustic contours associated to the proposed use. Why a development application for a motocross track is being recommended for approval when we, as the adjoining landowner, do not know how much of the property is going to be impacted by noise. The report does not clearly indicate or illustrate the extent of the acoustic impact upon our property. Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval where there is no clear indication as to how the track is to be modified to ensure our property is not going to be impacted by the noise? Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval when the accommodation area is not subject to a noise assessment? The accommodation style is clearly dormitory style, so recreation will occur outside with direct impact on our property. Why is the development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval when there are clearly 2 acoustic reports that are in disagreement? Surely we can get a peer review warranted for this. Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval when a commercial development is allowed to utilise a crowned road reserve as its access? If I was building a house, I would be made to upgrade the road to council standard
And then the road be gazetted as a public road. So why are we having double standards here? Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval when the OMP does not address how trespassing onto our neighbouring property will be prevented? Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval when no developer contributions have been levied against it, despite council contribution plan requiring payment for this? Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval with a wastewater system only designed for maximum daily flow associated to 3 days occupation, not 7 days occupation of the site? And why does council report state this is okay? Why is a development application for a motocross track being recommended for approval with tourist accommodation allowed on the boundary of our property? Our right to farm will be impacted by this operation of a commercial development within metres of a fence line. Why does a dwelling have a setback of 150 to 50 metres from a boundary, but council considers this okay to allow a commercial accommodation against our boundary fence? Why is a development application for a motocross track being rushed through the assessment process? Why one standard for an assessment for Weeks development application at Shooters Hill back a few years ago and a different standard to this DA? Even if the scale of development is smaller, it should not benchmark this development. That's my, thank you.
Any other questions from public? Thank you.
So my name is Mark Hitchinson, Navigate Planning. I'm the applicant for 13.6, the DA for 3117 Arkstone Road, Isabella. I'm here with Corey, who's the landowner and proponent. I guess we don't propose to respond to all of the issues that have just been raised today verbally. Suffice to say that we've been made aware of all the issues raised in submissions, and we've provided council with a response to all of those issues, including further technical advice from our acoustic consultant. Council has that information, and I hope that you've had a chance to review that. I'd just like to say that the applicant is happy with the assessment report. We're happy with the conditions that are proposed. We understand a development contributions condition is proposed to be added tonight, but that was missed initially, and we're happy with that. Just in relation to access, we believe that the council's engineers have assessed the proposal and have recommended an appropriate condition to address that, and we're satisfied with that. And as I've said, in relation to the acoustic issues, which is, I think, the key issue, that our acoustic consultant has provided the technical advice. I'm not a technical expert in acoustic matters, so I don't propose to talk to the specific issues, but that's been provided to council, and we leave that with you for consideration and assessment. Thank you. And Corey might like to speak as well.
Hi, my name is Troy DeMarco, and I am also in regards to 13.6.
Yep.
13.6. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, council. I would like to say when I first decided to make a business in my property, I went over and discussed the idea with my neighbour, Vicky and Brad. They were at time 100% supportive of the idea. Shortly after that, I had a weekend and I had 55 friends coming up riding at the property. There were no one-way signs, there were no slow zones, there was no nothing, there was no rules. It was an unorganised weekend. It all snuck up very quickly. I invited 10, they invited 10, and there was 55 guys. After the weekend was over, I spoke to Brad and Vicky, who were up at the weekend, and they told me that they heard nothing. That they saw cars with bikes and they thought they were going to the national park, but they heard no noise and they were amazed, and I was great. I have now had mates coming up for the past 8 years. I've spent a lot of time thinking about where we can ride so the noise stays inside my property so I can control it, because I don't like noise either. So even when I do have to put up with it, I don't have to put up with it myself. Unfortunately, through a lock of my own, unfortunately through a lock of gun safety issues that I had with Brad, they do not want to be neighbourly anymore. The gun issues were a matter of life and death, and it was just completely just dismissed. Our friendship has failed. Since the failure, Brad and Vicky have tried as hard as possible to give me grief, stop me from earning a living, and to stop me from starting a business. I do not interfere with their life, with the cow noise and babies like getting taken away from their mothers and mooing all night long and everything else. It's part of farming, whatever. I would like to say every report I have submitted to council has been by a qualified engineer in their field. The report council has asked for has been given, paid for. The engineer came to the property, did their tests, gave me a report, I paid for it. End of story, end of relationship with that engineer. I did not know them, I did not influence them, they just did their job. Brad and Vicky's town planner is Jacqueline Burns. Jacqueline Burns is Vicky's friend. Brad and Vicky's acoustic engineer is Brad's mate. Every professional report I have made, I have put forward, and Brad and Vicky have tried to discredit it. All of the accusations made by Brad and Vicky against these reports have been responded to by the professionals that wrote the reports and did the tests that proved the report to be correct. These responses have been accepted by council, but Brad and Vicky are still making noise with anything they can waste time with. They are just trying to cost me money and waste my time. I ask councillors to look at my situation and my life. My business will bring a lot of money.
Sorry, you're reaching time and you have to be careful not to be defamatory, please.
Okay. Apologise.
Remember my statement at the beginning of the meeting.
I ask councillors to look at my situation, my life. My business will bring a lot of money to community. It will help men's mental health, provide a legal place to ride for locals and out of towners alike. It will provide a place for families to get out of the city and experience bush life under the stars. It will allow me to move on with my life. My business will bring in around about $500,000 a year into Oberon, into the village itself. That's just on the weekend. We don't really, the weekend is mostly pretty much what we want. And at the end of the day, I don't see too many people bringing you that kind of money. It's going to be a good business. It's very quiet. The locations are quiet. We've had councillors out to my place. They've listened to motorbike running around. And one of the councillors' response was, the cicadas are making more noise. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the public, please?
Hi, Mayor, councillors, Auntie Ruby and other guests here tonight. I just want to speak on 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, Kylie Probus, Rotary woman from Oberon.
Your name?
Kylie Probus.
Kylie.
Yeah. I've been living in the Oberon area for about 15 years now, and in the Bathurst area for about 25. I just want to support all the other claims of 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, and just basically reaffirm that throughout the day there's been a few letters of support that have come in from the Bathurst local Aboriginal Lands Council who are opposing the motions. PJ Aboriginal Lands Council, which also oppose all three motions. The Wiradjuri Traditional Owners, Central West Aboriginal Corporation, and I've also had phone calls from Minyan Aboriginal Corporation and Lithgow who also oppose all three motions. And I just wanted to say that I don't think it's a very positive move for Oberon Council and the whole of the community, not just the Aboriginal community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the public? Thank you, Robin.
Mr. Mayor and councillors, I'm Robin Wiseman. I like to bring your attention to, I've been here for 21 years. And when we first came here, we came here for the people because they're friendly and a very close, seemed to be a close community who cared about one another, and also for the fresh, clean water. But that's another subject. What I want to actually ask you is that please don't take on any more big projects. Look after what we've got. We've got a beautiful common down the road that is full of thistles and they're all ready to blow out. I mentioned it to our councillor and he had the rose garden organised and done,
but they haven't done anywhere else. And even if they just go through and cut down and get rid of the thistle that is raging through the common, and I know it's elsewhere now, but it first started off, I can go back to about 2010, I think it was. I saw it in the reserve, and it was never anywhere over in the common, and you've done a beautiful job with it. But we don't appear to have the ability to look after what we've got. And I think it's time to stop and look at what we've got and do the maintenance. And if we take on a project, please look at the maintenance side of it. If we don't have the money, don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Are there any other questions from the public? If not, we'll move on to item 9, which is confirmation of minutes. Item 8, sorry. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 17th of December 2023 be confirmed. Can I have a mover of a motion? Thank you, Councillor Hayden. A seconder, please. Councillor Tucker. The motion as per
Yes,
the
Mr.
recommendation.
Mayor, as the recommendation, I'm happy to move that. I did want to bring to your notice that when the video meeting is being recorded, you mistakenly did say that it was the meeting of the 17th of December 2005.
Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to second the motion. Nothing to add.
Any further discussion? If not, I push the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimous. Thanks. We go to item 9, mayoral minute and report. The recommendation is that report item 901 is received as information. I would make one slight change. On the 4th of February 2025, as an addition, I met with Pat and Julie Condon, together with the General Manager, to discuss a development matter, which I should have picked up previously. Subject to that change, there's a second to the motion. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Discussion? Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you've had an incredibly busy 2 months. With a number of important meetings and correspondence, but not to take up too much time. Could you just have a little bit, give us a little bit more detail regarding the John Ball meeting? Just what it's like.
Yes, the general manager and I met. They have some development applications they're going to push through and they'll look at in relation to their facility. That's I can't go into too much more yet. Any further issues, Councillor Connor? You want to? No. Yes, sorry, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you've been relatively busy over that period of time. A couple of issues in here. You have missed a meeting that you held on the 10th of February with councillors Graham, Alevris and myself at 1:30 p.m, 10th of February. That's not minuted into the meeting minute there. Also, I had some discussions over the weekend with Vanessa Booth of the Leagues Club, and she was concerned as to why this correspondence hasn't been listed under the correspondence of the 13th of January. And she would also like it if someone could respond, as there was only one councillor who verbally had responded and one who had responded by email. And she would really like to have some serious discussions.
Okay, we'll note those 2 items. Any further issues? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One further minor correction. The first item on your list of meetings, 11th of December, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting.
That was you.
Correct? You were not present.
Yeah, absolutely. You were the, yes, that's correct. Not present. With those changes, any further changes or discussions?
Just the meeting on the 11th of December, the DAs aren't state significant. that, you spoke to Mr. Borg and Mr. Victor. What's his name? They're outside the state significant. They have been handled by us, in other words.
Some are and some are what we call designated, so there is some outside requirements for assessment.
Okay, and at that meeting, did you remind Mr. Victor, what's the name, that consultation meeting at the Pine Hills Quarry, I don't think is taking place? We're supposed to do one of them every 12 months.
Didn't, we can ask the question, chase that up, yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, I put the recommendation with those changes. All in favour? Yep. We have obviously a number of people in the gallery tonight concerning a number of issues. So what I'm proposing, subject to someone moving a motion and there being a seconder currently, is that we deal with 10.1, 10.2, 10.3 and 10.4, the notice of motion.
13.6, and then 13.6.
The sec. And that after those notices of motion are dealt with, we bring 13.06 and maybe 13.04 forward so that those can be dealt with, as there are a number of people in the gallery that I think are concerned with all those matters. Maybe at this stage I'll ask for someone to move that. So we move. So what I'm saying is we deal with the notice of motions, then we deal with 13.4, then 13.6. Thank you, Councillor Trembath, seconded Councillor O'Connor. So that's what we'll do. All in favour? Fine. So we deal with the four ends, the notice of motion 10. So we go to 10.1. And the motion is that, or the council remove the acknowledgement to country from the Oberon Council's Code of Meeting Practice. 2, discontinue the practice of acknowledgement of welcome to country at all future council events, openings and dignitary visits. 3, remove any reference to acknowledgement of welcome to country from the council's websites and media. 4, ensure that all visitors, council members and staff are informed of the update practices. Mover, please, Councillor Hayden. Seconder, Councillor Alevers. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge everyone that is here tonight and thank you all for what you've said and thank for all the correspondence. I have some correspondence from the Bathurst Local Aboriginal Land Council. I would just like to confirm to Tony Lee that I have received that. I have spoken also to Tina Scott today and she had given me her concerns as well. So I acknowledge that as well. I will acknowledge that Councillor Leanne Hampton, New South Wales Land Council correspondence and some correspondence from Kylie Provost, from Leanna Carr Smith and Wiradjuri Traditional Owners Corporation. Jade Flynn has sent correspondence. I acknowledge that I've read that correspondence as well. Also in relation to Delise Freeman, Peter Lau, I've also read that correspondence and thank you very much for sending it through. Now on to the motion. Let me get my piece of paper, sorry. Mixed it all up with everything else. Right. As an Anouan Celtic Australian woman, and I'm very proud of my heritage, my Anouan heritage, and I'm very proud of my Celtic heritage, and I'm very proud to be an Australian. One of the issues that I've seen, and as this community has brought forward to me over a period of 3 or 4 years, is that why do we have an acknowledgement of country in Council Code of Meeting Practice? I sometimes feel that these acknowledgements are meaningless. They're a bunch of words and there is more meaning in action. And I'm really pleased that you have all came along tonight because I just want to bring your attention to 2022 and 2023 when I pushed so ultimately hard in this council to have NAIDOC events, have smoking ceremonies at our library. I don't recall any of you being there, and I don't recall any of you being there at our movie night here. We actually had Michael Kantaris, his mum, and Brenda Lyons, and we sat through watching a movie. Oh, I guess, and Robin Wiseman. We watched a movie for NAIDOC, but there was no one else here, and I am very supportive of cultural heritage and everything else, but an acknowledgement isn't the way to go. So I'm just going to read this out, and then I'll leave the rest up to the councillors to make their decisions. So as an Anouan Celtic Australian woman with numerous local kinship connections to Wiradjuri, Gunnedarra and Darug people, I'm committed to fairness and equality for all members of our community. I am moving this motion to remove the acknowledgement of country from our council meetings, websites and other dignitary meetings. The intent is to create an environment where all members of our community feel equally recognised and valued. Many mention attempts at closing the gap. By removing the acknowledgement of country, I aim to place everyone on even footing. I believe that the current practice of separation and acknowledgement may unintentionally cause a divide. While ever there is one group mentioned more so than the other, it will continue to create a divide and a gap. By focusing on the shared future and the common goals of all residents, I aim to close this divide and ensure everyone is on equal footing. It's important to note that acknowledgements and welcomes to country were not historically part of Aboriginal culture and have become more recent practices. Many others, and I believe that the current acknowledgements are not genuine and constitute a misappropriation of Aboriginal culture. These practices do not reflect the true spirit and significance of our traditions and have become convoluted and used in the wrong manner. The acknowledgement of country may be seen as offering little practical benefit to the proceedings of our council meetings and any other events or official openings. Our mobs have corroborees based on traditions of war, hunting, sacred men's business, sacred women's business, births, marriages, and the time of mourning. This has been upsetting to a significant majority of our community. Our goal is to create a fair and inclusive environment for all community members. I recognise that this decision may be met with differing opinions, and I am open to dialogue and feedback from all community members. My aim is to ensure that our actions contribute to a more inclusive and united community where the focus is on mutual respect and collaboration. As a council, we will always continue to celebrate significant days such as NAIDOC Week, Indigenous Children's Day, and other cultural days like Diwali and many other community cultural days, ensuring that all the cultures are treated fairly and represented equally. I will continue to support initiatives and programs that address the needs of all residents, and I remain committed to working towards a fair and equitable society by promoting unity and inclusivity. So there is no offence intended to anybody, but that is the reason behind my motion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alevos.
Yeah, anyway, I think we're all Australians and we should be treated equally and respect each other equally and not be coerced to feel otherwise. I feel welcome to country and acknowledgement of country are part of a broader narrative. Back in 2013, I read a book called The Fabrication of Aboriginal History, written in 2002 by Australian historian Keith Winchell. The book, drawing on primary sources like journal entries, diaries, letters, and official records, challenged emerging historical narratives. Winchell warned that political agendas were being imposed on historical accounts, leading to distorted interpretations of events. He further argued that the distorted portrayal of Aboriginal history could strengthen native title claims by fostering a narrative of pervasive victimhood, thereby bolstering legal and political arguments for land rights and reparations. Winchell's concerns seem increasingly relevant today. Numerous Indigenous legislative measures have already transferred over 50% of Australia's national parks to Aboriginal ownership under the guise of protecting cultural heritage. And that percentage continues to grow. Furthermore, tens of billions of dollars are allocated annually to Indigenous programs, yet many of these initiatives seem to have failed to produce meaningful improvements for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. So when exactly will reconciliation be considered achieved? Will it be when a treaty is signed, or when Australians are forced to pay a rent tax simply for living in this country, or perhaps when an entirely new Indigenous nation is established, further dividing our country. So by not participating in these symbolic ceremonies, in my opinion, will not make us racist. As I said before, we are all Australians. We should be treated equally and respect each other equally and not feel coerced into thinking likewise.
Do you have anyone speaking against or for Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I am speaking against the motion. I certainly don't see the acknowledgement of country as meaningless words. I think it's an important and polite and respectful thing for us to do at the start of each meeting. However, my main argument tonight is not about the acknowledgement of country itself. It is simply a procedural thing of where we are at in reviewing our meeting practice. As you'll recall, late last year, we were expecting to review our code of meeting practice, and that was withdrawn because the Office of Local Government is in the process of reviewing the model code of meeting practice. And so when that review is complete, the report will come back to us, and then we will be debating it, including whether or not to include the acknowledgement of country. So regardless of what we decide on this motion tonight, whether we approve it or reject it, we're going to be debating it all over again in a couple of months' time anyway. The other point I would make is that we cannot resolve tonight to remove it. The most we could do would be to resolve to place that change to our policy on exhibition. And by the time it goes on exhibition and then that period is completed and a report comes back to us, we're going to be into our review of the whole code of meeting practice in any case. So it just seems to me to be putting the cart before the horse, and let's have this debate on acknowledgement of country at the same time as we review the entire policy. So for that reason, I am proposing an amendment, and the amendment is that this matter be deferred until the code of meeting practice is reviewed.
Do you have a seconder for your amendment? The amendment lapses for want of a seconder. Go back to the original motion. Any further discussion on the motion?
Thank you,
Yes, Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden, for explaining why you put the motion up. But I think as a local council, we should be listening to our local Aboriginal community who've spoken to us very well tonight. I would be against the motion.
Any further discussion on this matter, councillors? If not, I put the motion that's in 4 parts. All in favour of the motion? Councillor Hayden, Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Leveris. All against? Councillor Graham, Councillor Tucker, Councillor McKibben, Councillor Connor and Councillor Crenbath. The motion lost. Go now to item 10.2, recognition of Australia Day.
Having an alternative to put over that, Mr Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Hayden.
Can I read that out?
Yes, please. Has the
Wait.
executive assistant got a copy of it or not?
No, I haven't had a chance to send it. It's only brief. It's just switching around. So, 1, reaffirms its commitment to recognising and celebrating Australia Day on January 26th as a day of national significance. Point 2, will aim to schedule the majority of citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day, January 26th, every year commencing from 2026 to honour the importance of citizenship and the recognition of new citizens on this significant day, full stop. Any additional ceremonies needed will be scheduled for September 17th each year.
You know that, Sharon? Thank you.
Mr Mayor, would the councillor giving the those motion consider breaking them up into two parts?
I was about to ask that.
It is in two parts.
Well,
Do you wish to vote as one motion or two?
one is one and then two is another. The vote.
So you need a second first for the amendment.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean, Colin?
Break them up.
It's as separate motions. Okay. If I have a seconder for that, yeah, well, I'm happy to do it as two.
So are you seconding that on the basis that it's put as two separate motions, councillor McCarthy?
No, I'm just asking what she split them, that's all.
Well, she needs a second. Councillor Hayden needs a second. Do you have a second? Councillor Evans?
I'll second.
So at the moment, we will deal with them as one, but if there's an amendment to put them as two, councillor McCarthy, you've got that option.
Yep.
Are you putting that? And you get a seconder for that?
Well, I'd like to do them as two separate items, one and two, as two separate items.
You have a seconder for that?
Fair enough.
I'll second that. Right,
Okay, let's speak to.
yes, no, well, you've got an amendment now.
Oh, I've got an amendment now.
I think you can put that to the vote. It's a procedural motion.
Oh.
Procedural motion.
So we have a procedural motion, all in favour of putting them in as two separate items? Right.
Which one?
Yes.
We just get that clarified.
Item 4 is councillor Hayden, the mayor, councillor Tucker, councillor McCarthy, and councillor Evans. Against would be the remainder.
So they're going to put as two separate motions, okay.
Yes.
Speaks to it now.
She's split them, so it's still councillor Hayden.
So councillor Hayden, do you wish to speak to council, the first one, which is listed there?
Yeah. Okay, so the reason behind the motion is to reaffirm our commitment to celebrating Australia Day on January 26th and to realising its significance for that day.
Second?
Nothing more.
Right. Anyone speaking against that? That's what I'm
Mr. Mann, I too am a proud Australian, greatly valuing Australia Day in our calendar. But I don't believe there is any move to abandon the 26th of January, so I will not be supporting the motion.
Okay, Okay, fine. Anyone else speaking on it? Yes, councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure why this is necessary.
That's right.
That's my only statement.
Yes, councillor.
That would be my exact question. Why would even be discussing this? We do recognise Australia Day as a very important day for our citizenship ceremony, and we do endeavour to meet the requirements of our community from time to time, that for whatever reason, we hold the ceremony when required. So that I don't even understand why we need to take this for motion.
Mr Mayor,
Yes.
I'm supportive of, the 26th of January and always have been. What councillor Hayden confirmed in number 2, I think is too restrictive. If we have a person who wants to come along and become an Australian citizen outside the 26th of January, it prohibits that.
That's why I thought you were pushing up that the two should be dealt with separately.
That's right, that's why I split it. So I support the number 1, but I don't support the number 2 part.
Yes, fine. Anyone else speak on this? If not, I put
Can
section.
I have the right of
Yes, right of reply, councillor Hayden.
Okay, just for councillors' information, I'm not sure whether you're aware, but there's been a large push through local government in many councils around Sydney and across the state that have been trying to stop celebrating Australia Day, and they don't want to address the significance of the January 26th. There's also pushes to change the date within society across New South Wales, and by putting forward the motion that we are reaffirming our commitment to January 26th. And all it is just a reaffirmation that we are committed to celebrating Australia Day on January 26th. That is all it is. There's other councils that aren't doing anything for Australia Day. They refuse to have Australia Day. So I just wanted to reaffirm that with our community, that we are going to continue to on the practice that we currently do.
Okay, fine. I put motion 1, which is, as I said, council reaffirms its commitment to recognise and celebrating Australia Day on January 26th as a day of national significance. All in favour? 4 for and 4 against. I will not cast my vote in favour of the motion on the basis that we keep the status quo, which is as it is currently. So we now go to motion 2, which is yes.
Put it down.
Yeah. And second motion is that council aim to schedule the majority of citizenship ceremonies on Australia Day, the 26th of January of the year commencing from 2026 to honour, I think it is, the importance of citizenship and the recognition of new citizens on this significant day. Any additional ceremonies needed will be scheduled for September 17th each year. Councillor Hayden, you've put that. Are you you're the seconder again? Councillor Oliveris? Yes, right. Do you wish to speak to this one?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. The reason that I put that forward is, being a proud Australian, we show great pride in being Australians, and for citizens that want to become Australian citizens, that day is a massive day of significance. And to reflect that, that's why I wanted to make it, put it out there that we don't have these little citizenship ceremonies that we had so many of one year. There were 5 of them. And what happened? They come into the council chambers. There's a couple of people standing there. Someone gives them a thing. There's no celebration of becoming a citizen. This is something they've just given up their whole citizenship of their other country to come here to our country, and they want to be a citizen here. They're going to take their citizenship to this country, and they have 2 people in a room and a mayor that forgets half the people's names who were in the room at the time, and there's nothing great about that. They walk away and they go, oh, that was it. So the reason why I wanted to hold or put this motion forward to hold it at a time of significance, January 26th. Yes, we held one this year. That was great. But I would like to target majority of them for that date. And if we can't get them for that date and we're halfway through the year, we'll then target them for Citizenship Day, September 17th. But make a big deal about it. Make it a big deal, because becoming a citizen is a big deal. It's not just being handed a piece of paper and shaking a hand and saying, hey, that was great, here's a cake and coffee. We need to make that allowance, because that's a significant thing to do. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to put this forward and have those 2 dates, because both dates are significant. Australia Day, Citizenship Day. And that's it.
Councillor Leverett, nothing more than that. Anyone else speaking against it? Or for it? If not, I put the motion as written. All in favour? All against? Motion was lost. We go to 10.3, voice to New South Wales Parliament. The motion is that Council 1 oppose any support of a First Nation voice to New South Wales Parliament stated in the Resolution 97 of the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference Business Paper 2024. 2, Mayor and or General Manager are to consult with the whole of Council governing body before voting on any such motion that is in the direct opposite of the outcome of the 2023 Federal Voice referendum and any New South Wales Geo Country Mayors Association meeting, Local Government New South Wales Conference. 3, recognise that the 2023 Voice referendum outcome in the Oberon community, that 78.75% voted no. 4, recognise that the majority of Australians in every jurisdiction other than the ACT voted no to the Federal Voice referendum 2023. I have a moment for a motion, please. As per the motion there. Seconder?
No, second.
Councillor Leverett. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I put this motion forward. This came to light to myself when I was reading the minute meetings from the local government conference in November last year. And I know that a lot of people don't sit down and read through every single motion of all the 100 and so motions that were put forward on the day, but I'm one of those addicted to local government that I actually do crazy things like that and read all of the motions and read the comments and read the minutes and look at what was carried and what wasn't carried. Now, number 97 motion was put forward by Canterbury Bankstown Council, and it's quite funny that they should do that, because that had a lot of people talking across some private channels about how none of them actually are Indigenous and none of them are really Australian, but they actually put forward this motion to push a voice, and they are a Labor-driven council. So I kind of do understand why they would have put that motion forward. However, it's gone through local government. I know it's advisory and that it doesn't have to be acted upon, but that is asking local government New South Wales to advocate to the state government for a voice to Parliament, to New South Wales Parliament. So it's kind of very contradictory to what actually occurred And my rationale, if for those of you that haven't read it, is that I did write in there that was Mr. Scott had addressed when he had read his, and with all due respect, I know we're all going to have differences of opinions, but being a councillor, I base my opinions on the majority. So that's how I have to look at a lot of things, even if I don't agree with something. So 78.75% of this community voted no to a voice in the referendum, and they do not want a voice in the state. So I'm just going to leave that at that, and I'm going to let other councillors have their discussion around this, because I think I've got everything quite clear in the rationale, and I will just use my right of reply at the end. Thank you.
Councillor Everest?
Well, all I'm going to add is that the country, we all voted no. And I just think of an old adage, we don't want to let the camel stick its nose back under the tent. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking against the motion. First of all, I'd like to thank those in the gallery and who have taken the trouble to come and address council on the issue, and for the several excellent written submissions that have come in this afternoon. I think they are very well set out and explained. I proudly voted yes at the referendum because I felt it would have been a small step towards reducing the ongoing disadvantage and marginalisation experienced by so many Aboriginal people. And I support establishing a voice to the New South Wales Parliament for exactly the same reasons and for all the reasons set out in the various submissions. I would like Oberon and our surrounds to be perceived as a progressive and caring community, and one that cares about everyone, including the various minority groups in our society. It is clear from the attendance here tonight and from all the submissions we have received that there is a lot of interest and attention on this and a couple of other motions, and especially from local Aboriginal people and groups. And I'm concerned that if this motion passes, it will reflect badly on the council and on all of us. So I will certainly be voting against the motion regardless. However, I do want to move an amendment just to redress a bit of balance in the information in the motion. So my amendment is to add a part 5 and to state, recognise that a large majority of people in Indigenous communities voted yes to the Federal Voice referendum in 2023.
Sorry, you're opposing it, but you're adding
I'm still going to oppose it regardless, because the substantive part of the motion I simply cannot agree with. The purpose of the amendment is simply to provide a bit of balance in the information on the outcome of the referendum. So I don't know if I'll get a seconder, but I would like to move that we add that part 5.
Can you just repeat them?
Certainly. Number 5 would be recognise that a large majority of people in Indigenous communities voted yes to the Federal Voice referendum 2023.
So is there a seconder to that amendment? There's no seconder. The amendment lapses. Okay, anyone else speaking on this issue, on this motion as it's written, 1 to 4?
Right of reply.
Wait on. Councillor O'Connor.
Mr Mayor, as with 10.2, we really do not understand why this is being raised as a motion when there's no legislation pending. And in addition to that, I'd like to thank all the community members, Aboriginal community members who attended because of these motions. Been magnificent. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hayden, right of reply.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and there will be legislation had councillors been following. Firstly, would like to thank councillors for their discussion on this. I'd like to thank the community members that came along and it brought a few people out of the woodwork, and for that I'm really grateful. Thank you. We as a council should oppose any support for a First Nation voice to New South Wales Parliament, as stated in Resolution 97 of the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference Business Paper 2024. I believe that establishing a state-level voice could lead to the duplication efforts and resources, especially if similar advisory bodies already exist in the federal government. This duplication might result in inefficiencies and confusion about which body has the authority to address specific issues. Furthermore, it's essential that the Mayor and the General Manager consult with the entire council, the governing body, before voting or advocating for a voice to New South Wales Parliament at any New South Wales joint organisation, Country Mayors Association meeting, or local New South Wales conference. This consultation ensures that our council's stance is unified. Our community has already spoken previously and be representative of our community's views, especially on motions that directly oppose the outcome of the 2023 Federal Voice referendum. We must also recognise that the 2023 Voice referendum outcome in the Oberon community showed 78.75% of voters opposed the Voice proposal. This significant majority reflects the sentiments of our local community and should be respected in decision-making processes. Additionally, it's important to acknowledge that the majority of Australians in every jurisdiction except the ACT voted no to the Federal Voice referendum in 2023. This widespread opposition indicates a clear national sentiment that must be considered when discussing the establishment of state-level advisory bodies. In conclusion, while we recognise the importance of addressing the needs of Aboriginal communities, I believe Motion 97 is not an effective way to achieve this goal, and I also do not think that a voice to any parliamentary organisation will effectively help our Aboriginal communities in health, housing, drug abuse, violence, crime, because appeasement by any government isn't helping any of our people anywhere. So this motion was put forward that local government, of which this council is part of, are going to be advocating to the state government. I'd prefer to see local councils advocating for better health, better housing and something in our own communities, rather than advocating to get the government to start hearing another voice which isn't going to help anybody. So with that, I'll leave the votes in councillors' hands, and either way, I accept your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Hayden. I put the motion as one motion in 4 parts. All in favour? Councillor Hayden, Councillor Leveris and Councillor McCarthy. Those against? Councillor Graham, Tucker, McKibben, O'Connor and Tremblay. Thank you. The motion is lost. I'll go to 10.4 now, which is fluoridation of Oberon water supply. Motion is that Council 1 send the letter attached to this motion to the New South Wales Minister for Health, raising concerns about the recent US District Court ruling on fluoride in drinking water, highlighting the potential neurotoxic risks to children and other high fluoride dosage, and the higher fluoride dosage allowed in Australia compared to the US. For context, attached the US District Court ruling report from US Department of Health and Human Services and the Cochrane report. The letter will also request the New South Wales Ministry of Health to to review the current fluoride policies in the Public Health Act 2010 New South Wales in light of recent developments and emerging scientific research, provide guidance to Oberon Council on the health implications of fluoridisation and consider granting Council the autonomy to set local fluoridation policies. 2, Council to provide a financial analysis of the costs involved in fluoridating the local water supply, including the cost of purchasing, transporting and administering fluoride. 3, investigate if hydrofluorosilicic acid in the Oberon water supply is reacting with old copper and clay piping, particularly if the pipes are corroded, have mineral deposits or contain contaminants like lead or iron affecting the quality of the water supply. 4, Council to conduct a survey to gather data on communities' current position on water fluoridation. 5, subject to the advice received from New South Wales Health Minister, consider reallocating funds currently allocated for water fluoridation towards supporting a possible dental practice in Oberon. 6, send a copy of the letter addressed to the Minister along with supporting documentation and to all councils in New South Wales. Can we move it, please? Councillor Leverett, seconder. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Leverett.
Okay, how long do I have?
You're right, especially.
Mr. President, big excuse for a 12 break. Well, no, I'll hold it.
Oh,
And look, there's not much more I can add beyond what I've already provided in this motion. I believe I've outlined a fairly detailed yet concise background that simply can't be articulated in 5 minutes. I did this because as councillors, we need comprehensive information to make well-informed decisions, and in particular in areas which affects the well-being of our community. My notice of motion was inspired by 2 separate couples who approached me on polling day asking for my opinion on fluoride in the water. At the time, I had no strong view since I relied on tank water, but they urged me to look into it. Those requests in essence became 2 campaign promises. It wasn't until late October of last year when I came across an ex-post, formerly Twitter, about a California District Court ruling on fluoride posing an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children, which piqued my interest. The more I researched, the more I grappled with the notion of ingesting hydrofluorosilicic acid, which in essence is a toxin. I have no real issue with topical fluoride application. After all, we don't ingest it. So after reading the various scientific reports, the US court ruling and seeing global trends showing a shift away from water fluoridation due to toxicity concerns and involving research, I became convinced that this issue warranted me to put forward this motion. One of the most critical pieces of research comes from the US National Toxicity Program, or the NTP, and this is the first government body actually in the world to conduct such a comprehensive review of fluoride studies. The report was the basis of the legal decision made by the California District Court. Their findings indicate a strong association between higher fluoride exposure and reduced IQ, though they do not establish direct causation. The only way to confirm causality would be through a controlled clinical trial directly exposing young children to varying levels of fluoride, and this will be considered unethical. The methodologies in these IQ studies were rigorous. The Welsh Intelligence Scale for children was used to assess IQs, comparing scores between children with high and low fluoride exposure. The 29 studies reviewed by the NTP were classified as being of high quality, forming the foundation of the aggregated results. Now, beyond cognitive concerns, another issue I encountered was the potential for hydrofluorosilicic acid to interact with aging pipework, because it is, in essence, an acid. Given that Oberon already faces water quality concerns, I think we should consider temporarily suspending water fluoridation and then monitoring water quality to see if there are any improvements. I suspect up to 3 months as a consideration. Now, looking at this from a broader perspective, I believe that if the 2018 councillors who voted to introduce fluoridation in Oberon's water supply had access to some of this scientific evidence, they may have voted differently. I've also included a proposed survey to gauge community sentiment around water fluoridation in Oberon's water supply. If we were to use, say, the new AI reasoning models like DeepSeek and ChatGPT 01, which is the advanced reasoning version, and plug in the California District Court ruling, the NTP report, and the Cochrane report, and then ask them to provide a risk to benefit of water fluoridation based on these documents, Their conclusion is that systemic water fluoridation becomes a redundant and ethically fraught intervention that introduces avoidable risks without clear necessity and benefit. So in other words, the risk-benefit ratio makes water fluoridation no longer justifiable. Finally, if this council carries this motion, we shouldn't stand alone. We should engage other councils with similar concerns and build a coalition. Over the past decade, 6 New South Wales councils independently voted to suspend fluoridation following public consultation, only to be overruled by New South Wales Department of Health. These councils were Dubbo Regional Council 2019, Byron Shire Council 2018, Bega Valley Shire Council 2017, Armidale Regional Council 2016, Tweed Shire Council 2015, and Coffs Harbour City Council 2015. This is an opportunity for Oberon to lead and to collaborate with other councils and question whether New South Wales Department of Health's public health decisions are based on the latest science or not outdated policies. Obviously. Okay.
That's over here.
There's lots of arguments.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Okay, yes, I'd like to thank Councillor Leveris for putting forward this notice of motion, and this notice of motion is basically to get a letter typed up and sent to the minister. There's a lot of information that has gone on through here. I don't know whether everyone has read all of the attachments, but I think Councillor Leveris was giving me further activities on the weekend to read, because 323 pages of the National Toxicology Program, the 80-page case study on Food and Water Watch versus the US Environmental Protection Agency, and the Cochrane report. And these were quite lengthy, but I tell you what, there was actually quite some startling discoveries reading throughout these reports. And it also takes me back to 2014 when I drove all the way down from Harden just to be part of those fighting against the fluoridation of this water, even though I wasn't here, but my family was still resident, because this council didn't have a fluoridated water until 2018. And the issue around that, and I look at those issues of making those decisions similarly to the issues of what's the stuff called? Asbestos. So we looked at asbestos, and as kids, we used to play cowboy and Indians and go and crush up the white asbestos and paint it on ourselves. These days, that would not be done. Kids wouldn't do that. People jump. We've got a bit of asbestos in the common, and we can't go near that and put a path in, because that's apparently can cause cancer, can cause asbestosis of the lungs and cause other health issues. So one thing that I think this council made failure back in the day, and it's going to bite us, and it's going to bite us so hard eventually, that this council is responsible, solely responsible for the fluoridation of the water supply, and therefore we are force medicating a community who doesn't want to be force medicated, which they could have gone out and got the stuff themselves if they want to take it. So I don't want to rehash that, but that is something that gives me significant distress, because as science progresses, and science progresses daily, weekly, yearly, come another year and there's significant issue there that that this fluoridation that people are swallowing, which doesn't benefit your teeth, cause fluorosis of your bones and what have you. This issue is going to bite, because when it's proven that it is causing cancer or causing multiple neuron disease, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and a rise in ADHD and autism in children, these things are going to bite. And I really think that we as a council need to take this motion extremely serious. We need to write a letter. We need to be self-determining when it comes to putting something in and taking something out. And the Department of Health aren't going to take this on the chin and say, hey, that's our fault, because I've noted the General Manager's note in here. And I note that he has stated the New South Wales Department of Health has this oversight but this community did not have fluoride until 2018, until this Oberon Council forced this community to have fluoride put in their water. And we can see from the failed Department of Health, they're not going to be of any assistance. And the onus of this and the responsibility of this lays clearly on those councillors who are listed in those minutes of the resolution. And the onus of this and any future health issues is on the onus of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers, council? Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm speaking against the motion. When council at the time made its decision in 2018, I wasn't on council, but I know there was extensive consultation with the community and advice from New South Wales Health. And I have no doubt that if there has been any significant changes since then to the evidence on health impacts, both positive and negative, I have no doubt that New South Wales Health would be telling us so. I think they're the experts, so I'm certainly not an expert on it. The only sort of motion on this topic that I might consider supporting would be to invite New South Wales Health to come and give council an update on whether there have been any significant changes and what is the current state of research and evidence about the health impacts, positive and negative. I'm not moving it as an amendment, but I'm just saying that if at some point there was a motion along those lines, I would consider it, but I am opposing this motion. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Mr Mayor. When I grew up, you could buy fluoride tablets. Now they're banned. You can't buy them in the chemist anymore. And I think we should be looking at this. And also, one of the proponents for the fluoride was John Gibling. In recent talks with him, when we got the dispute with the laundromat, he said, yeah, fluoride might be breaking your pipes down, dislodging your, what do you call it, that turns out. Yeah, he said that could be one of your problems. So here he is forcing one thing, then he's saying, oh, even though I've spoke for it, it's probably giving you water problems. So we need all the information we can get. I'm going to support this.
Okay, I speak against it on the basis that I was one of the people who voted for fluoride in Oberon's water. And we had considerable evidence before us from New South Wales Health, dentists, the Dental Association of New South Wales, individual dentists, and health reports, dental health from around the country and from internationally when we considered this. It was considered extensively. And as Councillor Tucker has said, if there were issues with fluoride, I would believe that New South Wales Health would approach all councils where fluoride is involved and come and speak to them on the issue and raise it with us. There has been no such approach from New South Wales Health. There's been no such approach from Australian health authorities at a national level. I believe in relying on the science, and that was what I relied on when that decision was originally made. And I continue on that basis until we're advised by our experts to the contrary.
I would like to reply.
Yes, certainly.
We're asking New South Wales Department of Health the question, Mr Mayor. That's all we're doing.
The motion actually goes quite a lot more extensively than that. You have 6 parts.
I'm shocked. This is a shut up. Sorry, Mr Mayor, if you can't hear it, I can.
Right.
So you're opposing all of the entire motion?
Yes, unless someone puts an amendment to.
Well, we've had the right of reply now anyway.
We had the right reply though, so yeah. So I put the motion in 6 parts, all in favour. Councillors Leveris, Hayden and McCarthy, all against. Councillors Graham, Tucker, McKibben, Ashona and Prembar. Thank you. Motion not passed. Now, going to move to 13.4. As per the procedural motion earlier this evening.
Do we want to take a break?
Yeah, look, we can have I'm happy with that quick break. I'm sorry, people in the gallery, because I know you probably want to get home, but do we make it just 5 minutes, please? Three lot subdivision of 72 Humphreys Drive, Oberon. The recommendation is that one, council approved development application DA 2024.056 for a 3-lot torrent title subdivision of land at lot 46 in DP 1272904, being known as 72 Humphreys Drive, Oberon, in accordance with section 4.16 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, subject to the conditions contained within this report for the following reasons. Bullet point 1, the development is permissible in the Oberon Local Environmental Plan 2013. Bullet 2, the development complies with the Oberon Local Environmental Plan 2013. Bullet 3, the development is considered to be appropriate and will not impact the locality unreasonably. 2, a division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Could I have a mover of a motion? Yes.
Don't have an alternate. 1 remains as 1. 2, draft conditions of consent include the road be sealed and trees where possible to be extended. And 2 then becomes 3. I'll have to second.
Sorry, just a second. Sharon, have you got 2? Just do you want that? Councillor.
So the draft conditions of consent include the road be sealed and trees extended where possible.
Just a correction, Mr Mayor, shouldn't be right of carriageway.
Is right of carriage.
Oh, right of carriageway. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not a public road.
No, it's not right of carriageway.
Rooms too. And the 3 bit. Could you repeat that, please?
And trees be extended where possible.
Oh,
To the east.
To the east.
In keeping with the RFS.
so could I, just as a matter of form, suggest that 2 be written draft conditions of consent include A, what have you said about the road?
The right of carriageway be
And
sealed.
B, talk about the trees, so that we've got 2 particular points.
Trees to be extended.
Yes, but let's get the wording right.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
Okay, but
You were looking at me.
I'm trying to get the wording right with Councillor Trevor.
I was gonna do
Trees
similar.
to be extended to the east.
The east of the carriageway or the east?
No, where the trees are, there's trees out.
To the east, okay,
In
what we're saying
accordance with RFS requirements.
and a tree buffer zone be extended to the east, that's what you're talking about, in accordance with RFS requirements. Is that what, that's the happy way? Sorry,
Thank you very much.
and you're seconding that, I've noted that.
I would like to second, I actually was going to move the recommendation with a 3rd point to the same degree of sealing the carriageway.
Okay,
So I'm
that's it.
happy to second that.
Okay, let's make sure we've got it correctly, and then councillor Trembath can speak to it, and then you can speak to it as the seconder. Thank you. Sharon, you fine with that?
I'm almost.
Just wait till it goes up on the screen, so that we're all happy.
Sorry, it's not.
Right of carriageway, bitumen filled and then to say bitumen was enough. Old bitumen, bitumen, I think if we add there. And you want to say the current tree buffer zone to the east be extended, or you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are some trees that are already, then we want to rid of them. And I think that's what Paul was saying.
Couldn't you be more specific and say over lot 461?
Yeah, for the trees or the,
Would that be more specific?
Yeah.
A lot longer.
Have to extend through the shed.
Yeah.
Need to be extended to
Be on the northern side, wouldn't it?
that boundary there. And that's what your intention.
is it along the east to the northern boundary?
Not the north point on this, but some.
On the northern side of the block.
The northern side, not the eastern.
Northeast.
That's north.
Well, let's just wait a minute.
North, east, so east side, that's north. Looking at the map. North boundary. And east is over here, so if you're going to the east.
Yes, I was
coming that way.
So it's not along the northern boundary heading east, is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right, can we change it to the north, along the northern boundary
Heading east.
heading east? We happy with that? Thank you, councillor McCarthy.
No, you should put on the northern boundary of lot 461, nothing to do with heading east.
Yes, all right.
Thanks, Catherine.
If you're going to particularly, right?
All right, we've had a lot of discussion about this, motion, so.
I don't have very much to say other than I listened to Mr. Woodward. And having a long driveway that I can blow a lot of dust on whenever I drive up it. I know how much dust can be created. And I feel it's only there's other areas that have got concrete and have got seal that these three new places have bitumen seal as well. And the trees is another barrier for them to maintain privacy. That's my reason.
Thank you, councillor Hayde.
Yeah, I'd like to thank councillor Trembeth for putting forward that alternative recommendation in the motion, etc. I was looking at this last night and it took me back to the issues of Humphreys Drive and out in that subdivision previously in late 2022, early 23, when we had some road issues out there at the time about the mud, the water, the washouts and everything else. And I thought, why aren't we having these developers seal these roads in the startup so that we avoid any dust issues or in mud or wash away issues from the get-go? So I would like to thank her very much for that, because that is one of the issues that I can see. Another issue is, I note that they've mentioned leyland pines. They're actually leylandii, and the leylandii will grow to probably a metre and a half high in under 2 years to 3 years. So they are a good tree. They're not a tree that have, what do you call it? Like radiata pine needles and stuff. They're actually not a messy tree. They're actually a really good tree that can actually stop a lot of wind. They don't break off and snap off like radiata pine, and they don't cause a big mess. So I like the fact that they're planting leylandii along there, because they will grow quickly, they will bulk up. But one of the priorities that they're going to have to get in the top of the people that are planting them is take the head out of your plants, because it stops them from going crazy. You take the top out, they bush up and they hedge up really, really well. So, yep, I'm happy with how this is worded now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
Anyone else to speak on this motion? Or against? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. A couple of very minor points on the wording. Number 2, I don't think we need the word draft. I think we're resolving that conditions have been set to include.
Okay. We're not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And number 3, we've lost a few words at the start of number 3.
A division be called.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I support that different motion. If it had been a public road, I don't think there's any doubt that it would be sealed. In fact, I think that would be a requirement under the UCP, and I don't see that it should be all that different just because it's a different status of a right of carriageway as opposed to a public road.
Yep, councillor McCarthy, we're going to say something? I wasn't sure if you had your hand up or not.
Yes, I did. Is there any requirement on the width in our policy?
Question I was going to ask. Do you want to,
Is the owner just allowed to do a 2 metre right of carriageway seal? Or has he got to do a 4 metre?
I'll ask the director.
And the council's not taking it over.
Director?
And I think,
Through the chair, I think in our condition, we're asking for a 4 metre wide road.
But does that mean it's to seal for me?
you would should.
Anyone else remember? Was
Further
in
notice. And what are you talking about? Engineers.
So if the resolution doesn't specify width, what do you mean? Yes, sorry.
Through the chair, the DCP requires when you do an allotment, a specific amount of lots, it's done to a certain standard. At this point in time, the minimum standard is 4 metres, so I concur with the council. I think that if you were going to put a standard on it, it should be that it'd be bitumen seal to a 4 metre width at the very minimum.
So
In accordance to follow the DCP.
So are you happy to add those words?
Yes.
To a minimum of 4.
To a minimum of 4 metres according to the standard or something, or the
To a
DCP.
minimum of 4 metres wide.
Okay. You happy with that change? Happy with that change? Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this matter? If not, I put the notice of motion. I'll amend it. Is it amended? I thought it was an alternate motion. So it is the motion, isn't it? I put the motion, which is the alternate motion, not as per the recommendation, and which is on the screen. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We now go to 13.6. Just read the heading first, please. 13.6, development application 10.2023.30.1, recreational facility, outdoor motorcycle facility and accommodation.
I have an alternate.
Yes.
I have an alternate. I have my hand up straight away.
Yeah, alternate motion.
Okay. My alternate motion is that council defer the decision on DA 10/2023 30.1 and request a further report on the draft conditions of consent be brought back to the March council meeting to address concerns regarding access and signage via Arkstone Road and 7-Elevens applicable to the site.
Do you have a seconder for that alternate motion? Councillor O'Connor. Speak to it.
One of my big concerns when I did do with other councils an inspection is the access via Crown Road. And in the report, we can see that Crown Lands have indicated that the road could be turned over to council, or we don't want that road. And it's servicing a commercial business. It's not just a right of access to a private property. When we were trying to access the property as well, we got lost because the entry point is about 1 to 2 kilometres further along than where you believe the entry to be. So it's very hard and it required us to turn around. So I have quite a lot of reservations about safety on that road because there will be, I'm not saying all the cars are going to turn up at once, but potentially there'll be a few cars and trailers turning up. And on the O'Connell Road, which is a state road, and it's a commercial business that runs there, they actually had as part of the DA, they had to put in the side road for access. And their traffic is coming and going at various times of the day and wouldn't be as consistently all together as I believe this would be as they're turning up for a particular time of day and leaving at a separate time of day. So I'd just like to get a bit more information about that and have that as a condition of consent.
Councillor O'Connor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Further to what Councillor Fenbarth has said, also just make a note of an email exchange between the owner of the property and one of our councillors, which was not to the standard of our council. And I was very disappointed.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask what the hell's that to do with this decision.
I have a foreshadow. Could you please list my foreshadow, please?
Second, are you finished, councillor O'Connor? Yep, I think probably the email chain should be dealt with outside session. Yes, councillor Hayden.
Mr Mayor, could you please note that I have a foreshadowed motion should this motion not get up? And I would also like to speak against the current motion as it stands. Speaking against as it stands due to the fact that there has been a letter provided from Crown Lands. If all councillors have read all of the documentation and all of the attachments that had come through to our portal, Crown Lands had advised that they are quite happy to hand over the Crown Road to the council. That is one option. Another option is for the applicant that they could actually purchase the Crown Road, but either way, Crown has given permission and that's all within the documentation. Regarding going out to the block actually isn't that hard to find when you drive at a decent speed and don't drive past the entry point. So that is another issue. I did want to bring the attention around the fact that the road is not thoroughfare that goes through to any other major road. The road that is along there is actually basically a truck route, so you can go and get logs out of the forest. It doesn't kind of go anywhere except down into a dead end, or if you want to go fishing down at the river. So for councillors that aren't familiar with the area, that is actually, it's not going to be inundated with the masses and masses of traffic. It will have the current traffic that's generated there, and it's been operable for the 8 years with the current traffic that's currently there. I think if we start expecting one particular individual property along that route to have all these exorbitant road decisions regarding conditions and putting in turn lanes and this, that and the other that some of the councillors want to see, we're going to have to start doing that along all the road along there, because I know some of the properties, some of the people that actually have houses there where they don't live, those properties' driveways right at the crest of a hill. So anyone coming the other way can't see any of them. This is along many of our roads, we have these issues, but we can't just sit there and go, okay, we're going to whack in all these slip roads left, right and centre. We've got to look at everything in the context it is and how it's currently operating. So anyway, that's why I'm going to be speaking against the motion as it stands. Thank you.
Right, that's well. Yeah, have you, you're foreshadowing the motion?
I'm foreshadowing the motion.
So you're not going to tell people what it is?
Oh, I can tell you that my foreshadowed motion will be the original with a point 3 that states that all activities are regarding motorcycle riding are to cease when a catastrophic fire warning is issued by RFS. That's it.
Yep. Okay, anyone else speaking to this motion or against the motion? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm speaking in favour of this motion on similar grounds, but particularly related to the intersection and the access road. A couple of days ago, I sent an email just querying a number of aspects relating to that. That's my major concern about if it turns out that we can't achieve the normal standards at the intersection, what happens next? What's the way around that? Some questions about the existing physical standard of that Crown Road, and particularly, more importantly, the status of that access road. That if and when it reaches the point of needing major maintenance, well, it seems to me that there's nobody capable of doing it. Crown Roads can't, they're not a road authority. The owner can't because it's not his land. Council can't because it's not dedicated. So a month delay and reconsidering in March would at least enable me to get some answers to those questions. So that's why I support it. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm a bit bewildered by the last speaker. My understanding that this road is a V-double route. So the applicant, if he wanted to remove wall walls, whatever, can come out along that road and use that access because it's an approved V-double road. And I thought when we done the trial, they had to repair the road up near Burriga, where it's the intersection, and the rest of it please follow the B double along there and approved it as a B double route. I know we're approving a motorcycle track now. There's lots of places where you don't have the site division. And I thought with the application here, the council staff would have sent the engineering department out to bring us back a report because they know the site distance required with the speed and the other is the frequency use of the road. So in other words, if the road's not frequently used much, you can bring the site distance down a lot. So that should have been in this report, a recommendation that that driveway be accepted or signs put up that says that there's a motorbike facility or something there. This should have been in the report.
There is a reference at the bottom of page 53, sorry.
Yep.
Councillor.
But it's not specific, is it?
Well, it says a condition to be included that the applicant comes back with.
But it doesn't say what it is. Like, we used to go out as a open traffic committee and visit all these sites of the application. And then the engineer took it on that he went out and done them personally and assessed the thing and made the requirement. I think to keep delaying this is wrong, and we should have the Pacific people, when we got the DA, go out and assess the access. I'm sorry, thank you.
Further discussion on this?
May I just clarify?
Yes, discussion.
I just wanted to explain that the road I was talking about the status, was not Arkstone Road itself. It was the little bit from Arkstone to the entry into the property. And there's no way that's a B double route.
Right. Yeah, you want to reply?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's incorrect. Because once the road's declared a B double route, it goes from the whole entirety. It doesn't take into the Pacific property. Des was a part of that assessment out there. Their driveway didn't meet their requirements. They stood their ground and said, no, we're not going to do it. And when this road became Abercrombie Road down to Ballyreal, Mr. Gilmore said, see, I didn't need to do anything. Because all the driveways become assessed and become current.
Yes, Councillor.
I'm listening to all of this discussion and it's all about driveways, but no one has said that you're referring to private driveways. And this is a driveway into a commercial premises. So it is different and it should be considered differently.
Right. Yes. So I put the alternate motion. If there's no further discussion on this matter, all in favour? Remember Conor McKibben, Tucker and Graham. Against was Alevris, Hayden and McCarthy.
I can't believe that.
You got it.
Right, we go back to the normal agenda, which is 11. Which is councillor and delegates reports. 11.1 is recommendations that council receive and note the Burragoon District Community Association meeting.
Someone want to go out?
No, they'll be fine. They're fine. You don't need to go and check anything.
Well, that's your assessment.
Yeah, well, you're not a security guard, are you?
Mr. Mayor, can we note the absence of without leave?
Note the absence. I
Without
second.
leave?
Second,
No,
I think second.
was an issue. Thank you. No, in reappearance. Thank you. 11.1 Burragoon District Community Association meeting, the recommendation of council receive and the Burragoon District Community Association meeting delegates report. Move of the motion.
What are we up to?
11.1, thank you, councillor Hay. Second up. Seconded. Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't think I was in attendance at that one. I appreciate reading the report and I'll look forward to reading the most recent report.
Yes, thank you. I think the report speaks for itself. There have been more recent meetings since then, so I will update council on that at the next meeting. Okay, all in favour? Oh, sorry, councillor Tucker. Apologies.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just have a query. I'm puzzled or surprised by the note at the end of section 2 about flashing lights at the corner of Jeremy Road, Beauregard Dam Road, Parkstone Road. What are these flashing lights?
They indicate
what they mean. What direction do they face?
Right, so they're to indicate that trucks are coming up the Jeremy Road and meeting the Archstone Road, right? So that will warn oncoming motorists that truck coming up.
From the east and west.
Yeah, so that the problem is they haven't been working. So I've approached forestry about it. They said that they have continuous problems with them, but they are looking at the situation.
Yeah, well, the question is just about existence of them in the first place.
Forestry put them in.
With approval?
I'm not certain.
Maybe. Okay,
they do.
That's fine.
Yeah, and but they've had problems with the batteries and everything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, they are there, and they've been raised by the community group because, they are seen as a valuable safety, notification about trucks coming up there. That intersection, sorry. Put them up, nothing further, I put the recommendation. Thank you, carried unanimously. We go to committee reports 12.1 is the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting of the 11th of December 2024. Recommendation is council will receive and note the minutes of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on 11th of December 2024. The mover, please. Councillor Tucker, second Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker, as per, I take it your motion is as per the
so
recommendation.
I'm moving as per the recommendation, and I think it's pretty straightforward and nothing further to add.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Councillor Hayden.
Mr Mayor.
Any further discussion on 12.1? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. 13, reports for decision. 13.1 is the quarterly budget review statement to October to December 2024. The recommendation is that council, 1, note movements from the previous resolutions incorporated into the quarterly budget review process. 2, endorses the following operational plan budget adjustments. A, adjustments to local roads and community infrastructure phase 4 projects and expenditure revisions. B, additional capital works of 300,000 for the sewer rising main program from sewer fund reserves. C, an additional capital project of 60,000 for the survey, concept development and detailed design of a new landfill cell from waste fund reserves. And D, an 85,000 increase in the consultant budget for the waste fund reserves for the development of a new waste strategy. 3, authorises the general manager to make minor administrative changes as required. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you. As per the recommendation. Seconder? Councillor Connor, thank you. Councillor Trembar.
Thank you. And I want to thank the corporate director who answered some of my questions around, in particular, the key ratios. So something that we need to pay attention to. And I also acknowledge that it's timing. So, it's not quite full year. So leave that alone. But what stood out to me is the operating performance ratio benchmark, and it signals that we possibly have a challenging environment. So the ongoing decline in both operational capital grant funding, combined with constraint on council's ability to increase revenue through standard rate rise of fees and charges, is widening the gap between revenue and expenses. So we have a strong buffer, as we can see with the unrestricted current ratio and debt service ratio, and our debt reserves can provide support. But as one of the ladies in the gallery tonight, Mrs. Wiseman, pointed out, she's actually asking us to be a little bit more prudent and be aware of where we stand with our finances. And I just wanted to make a point of, we are not heading in a great direction. We're still great what we do and how we've been very cognizant of our finances, but we need to be really, really on it all the time with everything that we approve. We want to make sure that the dollars we're spending are going to give our community the best outcome. And potentially there will be things that we want to do, but we may not be able to do. So that's all I wanted to say.
That's right.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I support Bart's comments, and also that from listening to other councils and reading, we're sort of heading towards a cliff, and it's not upon us yet. Other councils are highlighting that fact, so we have to be conscious of that in our decision making. And just to, pardon me, to our corporate service director, just a little bit more detail on the 85,000 consultant budget.
Yes, through the chair, are you referring to the waste fund, the consultant, the strategy?
Yeah, the waste fund, that's right.
Yeah, that's through the chair. So we have brought that in from the waste fund to back a consultant to take the next stage forward, the development of that waste strategy. Yeah.
That's all in order.
Well, I think through the chair, it's very clear that Oberon has to be looking at a change in its attitudes towards the waste component of the legislation that's currently in front of us, especially with FOGO and the move towards closure of a lot of these things. Council has asked that we look at this in a comprehensive way. The word increase is not something that's above. The word increase is, it's just because it's bringing it forward. And we hadn't provided that as part of the original budget. So the 85,000 expected to undertake that comprehensive strategy, the engagement, and all this takes resources and time.
It's just that, like you said, increase. Sorry.
Okay, so Councillor Hayden.
No, you're on.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to thank Zoe and the team for getting this done, and for Matt. It's always challenging as we come up to our finance period in council. One of the things I did want to mention about our the net waste strategy. I do hope that we can reach the timeline over the next couple of years to start implementing this FOGO, and we need to implement some recycling initiatives in this community, because we're way behind the ball in regards to other councils, and that's huge legislation coming forward, and we need to make sure that we're well prepared for that. And another thing, how many more cells have we got left out at the tip, apart from this cell that's getting set up?
So through the chair, this is the first cell of our new development.
The first of the new.
So we've still got the old one and the transition, which is also part of that waste strategy on how we do it.
That's McCarthy.
Yes, I'm just concerned that we've got to get a consultant in with the 85,000 to do this work. I thought we engaged someone that was had their finger on waste and why we can't do it in-house ourselves, that's all. And
through the chair, this is a huge project that we're embarking on, and it's just not something we can cope.
I realise that, and one of the things that we haven't done is got the weighbridge in place, and we're getting a massive amount of waste from outside our LGA. And one of the things I thought that was going to happen with the weighbridge was number plate recognition, like at Lithgow, and you tell the person that's bringing waste in from another site, turn your truck around and go. But we've got to get these things done. The weighbridge is over 12 months from when it was scheduled to be done. Why aren't we getting it done? We provide this money, provide the money for the weighbridge. And
I think there is an updated report coming tomorrow.
I realise that, Andrew, but just an air, but we were promised the weighbridge with our fees and charges, and so Trent Bath keeps bringing it up. Previously, it was to be in not this Christmas, the one before.
Yeah. Look, I am wondering whether we should have an update via email on the weighbridge.
Well, we haven't.
I want to make it public and put a report to the community about the update on the waste strategy, especially the weighbridge.
And so we have waste meat workshops then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy.
That's my concern, that we just throw 85,000 away, and anyway.
Councillor Taggart.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, thank you to staff to get this quarterly budget review completed in time for our first meeting of the year, noting that that's Christmas, New Year period. A lot of people on leave during January, so that once again is a good effort to get it to us in February. I have two questions for the Director of Technical Services. Both relate to a couple of paragraphs on page 27. So we have adjustments to the local roads and community infrastructure phase 4 projects and expenditure revisions. And it says enabling inclusion of additional works. I'm just interested to know what additional works are proposed.
Yeah, I can answer that. That was the in that program with some of the expenditure revisions, we brought in some additional works on Mayfield Road. They've been included in that bucket of roads in that grant round.
So it was always part of LRCI in the first place.
This is one of the intentional projects we wanted to bring in. We've just been able to bring it in based on some other expenditure that has come through.
Thank you. And my second question is the next one, the sewer fund, $300,000 for sewer rising main program. And again, I'm just interested to know which rising main and whether it's because of particular problems with that existing rising main.
Yes, through the chair, I was only believed there was a previous report of council. The issue that arose was in 2022, where there was a break in the rising main that created a pollution incident that was reported through our pollution incident response management plan to the EPA. That required temporary fixing of the main, but as a part of that, there was an approved capital project from that time to build a new sewer main parallel to it, which is in the ground now, but not complete, and also to build a bypass to then allow for completion of the new sewer rising main. And it's the rising main from the pump station near the sewage treatment works and the treatment works.
I guessed it might have been that one, but thank you for that.
Sure. Yes.
Right, a reply.
Well, no, I was going, the right of reply, I've got a comment to it. I thank Zoe for the reports. I think, following on from what Councillor O'Connor said, has been said previously, I think we have to be very aware of the through life support costing of our current facilities and also our future facilities, including the sports complex, our current pool and gym and our S2P, and making sure that we're keeping within our means in the through life costing of those projects. Noting that as they all get older, they're going to cost us more. And as has been mentioned, I think with going into this future waste project, which we're going to be required, I'm sure, by legislation, and I think Councillor Hayden referred to it as well, we need to be highly aware and know what it's ultimately going to cost us, because recycling is currently costing all councils at the moment a considerable amount. With most recyclings going, I think, to Orange and then back down to Sydney. So there's a cost per tonne. So we have to be acutely aware in those areas, and they will put a lot of strain on the budget unless we manage those appropriately. So thank you, Councillor Tremor. I'll just make those comments.
Yep, and through the chair to the general manager, we've talked about this consultant that we're going to bring on. Will that enable us to be more grant ready for the funds that are actually out there for councils going to implement FOGO by 2030? Is it sort of like a shovel ready that we're sort of getting there?
So through the chair, our action report that we commissioned to deal with waste in 2022 was very clear that the way that you go forward with these things is to have your strategy and your plan prepared. You have your engagement with your community, and you are ready for that type of transition. With that comes time and comes a robust type of consultation process with your community, and ours is no different to that. They'll absolutely be. There's funding mechanisms out there to assist in that, and they run out in 2027 at this point in time. So we'll be aiming to have that strategy in place that enables us then to earmark that. We're also looking for ongoing grants to support this. So if we can mitigate that cost that we brought from the reserve, we can put it back
Thank you.
All right. I put the recommendation as written, as the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 13.2, which is the borrowing policy. The recommendation is that council place the revised borrowing policy 2212 on public exhibition for 28 days and invite submissions from the public during that period. 2, adopt the policy as presented if no submissions are received within the exhibition period. 3, delegate authority to the general manager to make minor amendments if required. Mover, thank you, councillor Hayden. As per the recommendation.
As per.
Seconder, please. Thank you, councillor Connor. Councillor Connor, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a good policy. I had a quick read, and yeah, we'll just wait to see what submissions come through. Thank you.
Connor. Any further discussion on this? If not, I put the motion in 3 parts. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Go to 13.3, development application DA 2024.073, dwelling and shed at 11 Ellis Drive, Oberon. Recommendation is that 1, council vary part C 5.5, building height plane, part C 5.7, height and setback from the street, and part C 6.4, carports and garages of its current DCP 2001 in relation to development application DA 2024.073 for a dwelling and shed at lot 221 in DP 1308487, being known as 11 Ellis Drive, Oberon. 2, that a division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Hayden, as per the recommendation.
Recommendations.
Seconder, Councillor McCarthy. Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to support this DA and vary the height here. Building height plane as stated, the building height plane in combination with building height limits forms the maximum building envelope for all residential developments except providing for C 5.6 exemptions. I'm happy with that. One point here I have on where council's objectives in regard to ensure that a residential development will not significantly increase the overshadowing of adjoining properties, reduce the level of privacy enjoyed by adjoining properties, or C, affect the amenity of a rural village. I gather this is off Springfield Street, so I don't think that C is going to be applicable, is it? Because it's not a rural village, it's actually in town. So I just wanted to clarify that because I wondered why that's popped in. I gather that's part of the clause and part of the.
That's correct, Director.
Part of the part of C 5.5. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm happy with it. We've got to allow these houses to be built and these sheds. I did read the response to submissions in there as well, and I'm happy to move that we accept that as per that recommendation.
Councillor McCarthy.
It's pretty straightforward, but I believe this large block on the original plan was created to provide a facility for this Springfield development up there. And unless you put a caveat on the land, this is what happens. You get it. Someone smart enough, they see a large enough block, they subdivide it in half.
Any further discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We now go to 13.5. Page 47. Development application DA 2024.079, alterations and additions to a dwelling at 7 Windeyer Avenue, Oberon. Recommendation is that 1, council vary part C55, building height plane of its DCP 2001 in relation to development application DA 2024-079 for alterations and additions to a dwelling at lot 1 in DP 782121, being known as 7 Windeyer Avenue, Oberon. 2, a division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you, councillor Hayden.
As per the recommendations.
Seconder, councillor Connor. Thank you, councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I was reading through this and this is for a proposed ensuite. And I did note that the building already is over the current building height plane. I don't see any major issue. I did, however, have some trouble in the printed papers trying to have a good look and read these maps and understand that because they were so fuzzy and blurry. But no, I don't have any issue with that. Thank you.
Councillor Connor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I haven't got any issue with the development application, but I've just got a question. Building regulations are 900 for the boundaries, is that right? Mr Mayor?
Through you, I think is it not 900?
900.
Through the chair, there's planning requirement in the building code of Australia requirement is a minimum of 900. Planning refers to the building height plane, which
Yeah,
the higher it goes, the more setback you have, or you ask for variation.
So the questions I got with that is, you look at this one, if you get the site with 900 on both sides, it sort of leads itself to having shading issues and also privacy issues. And whether or not, and there's also no access for medical access, amenity or fire access, you know? It just seems to me.
Okay, I agree with that. Maybe it's something we should raise in our CLUS discussions and all of that. I understand that.
I'm just trying to get some information.
Yeah.
Through the chair, it's an existing dwelling.
Yeah.
And they're following the same line as the existing boundary, building line down that side, and hence the non-compliance in the request of that variation.
Thank you.
So I take it you're still seconding it?
Yes.
Yes, right. All right, any further discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion as written. All in favour? Thank you. We go to 13.7, which is development application DA 2024.085, dwelling at 104 Arties Road, Mount Olive. The recommendation is that council vary the restriction on title on lot 3 in DP 1075939 in relation to development application DA 2024.085 and section 68 application S 68 2024.036 for a dwelling on the subject land known as 104 Arties Road, Mount Olive, 2 a division be called in accordance with section 375 over Local Government Act 1993. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor McCarthy, a second, please. Councillor O'Connor, I'm assuming as per the recommendation. Yeah. Councillor McCarthy.
It's a pretty straightforward report. It's one of the last blocks of Arthur Ryan's subdivision, and it's there for you. And I know you're close to the Fish River, but there's ways of dealing with that.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Again, I'm probably seeking, I have no problem with the development application. I'm probably seeking information again because there's a move across the state where there's buildings close to creeks. I was just wondering, what's the requirement for the septic tank effluent when you're close to a creek? Is there an absorption trench or what's the structure that's built?
Through the chair, I'm not exactly sure this development, but depending where the trenches are, there's certain risk, a low, medium or a high risk. And obviously the closer they are to a water source, they would become a high risk. Therefore, there's a requirement for undertaking maintenance on that system.
The size of the trench?
Size of the trench through the chair is based on the number of bedrooms in the dwelling, therefore the occupants as well.
Is there a requirement to plant trees below the trench?
I don't believe so. Through the chair, that's up to the applicants, the proponents.
Don't know where I got that one.
All right,
thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I had a couple of concerns regarding this particular development. As the Director of Planning will be aware, there seems to be some issues with people releasing product into creeks or waterways, and I want to make sure that any building envelopes down in these areas can actually retain any effluent so that it can't run off down into our waterways. One of the major issues here is that being the Fish River that then flows into future water supplies that people are drinking, and it adds to any effluent that goes into these waterways, add to the contamination and blue-green algae. So I just have concerns and questions around that, that if they're going to put these tanks have full pump out where there's no runoff that can go down and infect these waterways. That's just one thing I see that can be an issue when we're approving these systems that are close to water courses. That's all. Thank you.
So I think Councillor Hayden, there was a restriction, and correct me, Director, but there was a restriction on the title to say not less than 200 metres from the Fish River. But then our own LEP has been changed subsequently to say not less than 100 metres. So I'm assuming therefore that our planning department, etc., are happy that it must be, that as long as it's over 100 metres and other circumstances are met, that's fine. Is that right?
That's correct. It's further recommendation.
So I think on that basis, that would answer Councillor Hayden's question.
I didn't actually ask a question. I had a statement of the concerns. So just to clarify any misunderstanding of what I'm meaning, we as a council have a responsibility to make sure that our water courses remain uncontaminated. So we need to make sure that when we're allowing septic or effluent systems going into building blocks that are close to water courses, we have large rainfall, heavy rainfall, sometimes flooding. We want to make sure 100 metres, we could have that river go up and it could cover over 100 metres.
Okay.
So we need to be mindful. That's all I was stating,
Okay.
not questioning.
No.
Stating.
So I think that then needs to come up in the context of a revision to the overall LEP 2030. All right. Okay, any further discussion on this matter? Councillor McCarthy.
I reply.
Sorry.
I think you find in our management of our septic systems within 200 metres of the any water course, there's a periodical inspection of about every 5 years.
Is that correct?
It used to be.
Through the chair, through our new policy that was developed only a couple of years ago, adopted by council, that do have the low, medium and high risk. And the higher the risk, they're inspected every 3 years, and it goes up 5 years, and I think 7 years for a low. So that program is being implemented right ongoing now.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I'll go to 13.8, development application DA 2024-092, dwelling at 57 Glendalough Road, Oberon. Recommendation is the council vary the restriction on title on lot 96 in DP 1238111 in relation to development application DA 2024-092 and section 68 application S682024-040 for a dwelling on the subject land known as 57 Glendalough Road, Oberon, 2 a division before in accordance with section 37.5A of the Local Government Act 1993. Can I have a mover of a motion, please?
Yeah.
Councillor McCarthy, seconder, please. Councillor Tucker, thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
Somewhere in this report, I read there that it's a better outcome than the septic system, so that's why I'm supporting it.
Councillor Tucker.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Any other discussion, Councillor Hayden?
Comment as per previous.
Okay, noted. Any further discussion? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. You go to 13.9, ARIC member resignation and recruitment. Recommendation is that council note the resignation of Mr. Ron Gillard and formally acknowledge his contributions to the Oberon Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. 2, approve the commencement of an open expression of interest process to recruit a new independent member to the committee. Can I have a mover of a motion, please? Councillor Tucker, seconder, please.
Well, my motion is as per recommended.
As per the record. Seconder, Councillor Trimbar. Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I first became aware of his resignation, the immediate thought was, can we go back for a second time to the last lot of applications? So you might recall back when Kylie was appointed, we went through a whole advertising and interview process. And the next resignation, we used those same applications to then appoint Andrew Cox. I wondered if we could do the same again, but my gut feel was, and talking with the director, it's probably getting a bit too long ago to be doing that now. Too much time has passed and too many of those original applicants have either moved on or found something else or no longer be interested. Plus the potential that there's other people out there who would now be interested who didn't apply last time. So I think it is best that we recommence that advertising process.
Thank you.
Nothing further, Chair.
Sorry. Look, I would just say that having dealt with Ron on our Audit Risk and Insurance and Improvement Committee, he's been a great benefit to us. He's always shown abundant common sense and practicality in on that committee, and I think he will be dearly missed from that committee. So I think absolutely agree with one that we should acknowledge his contribution to the Oberon ARIC. Without any further, I put the recommendation. All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. 13.10. Financial Assistance Policy 2209. Yes, Councillor Hagan.
My alternate is to defer till March. Only reason is there has been some individuals that think they put in a submission who may not have put in a submission, and some that said that they had put in a submission that can't find the submission. And I would like to leave this till and defer this until the March meeting. I also have some concerns around the specific way that the evaluation panel would be set up and how that would work. It kind of removes a lot of major decision making as a governing body, and then you're putting it over to a panel to then grade and screed and then send through to councillors. And I'm not sure how that is going to be set up, whether there is going to be the entire list of applicants and then they send through whichever ones that they have graded accordingly, because I see this may in fact actually remove some decision making from us as a council as a whole, whereas these decisions.
Right. Let's just find if you've got a seconder first. Do we have a seconder for this one? This alternate motion?
And I'll second it.
Right, you carry on, councillor.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, I'm a bit overboard then, but that's just a concern. So, our Corporate Services Director is aware of a brief discussion this morning with a member of a community association who thought that they had actually put through their submission. In the villages, there's a couple of others. So I think by deferring, we give people a little bit more avenue of placing submission. As councillors that are on committees, we need to be a little proactive in advising those other members that this is out there. I did note as well that this exhibition period was only on the Have You Say page and it didn't go through to the newspaper. I did note that some things have been going to the newspaper and some things haven't. So this hadn't reached the free newspaper whereby a lot of community residents also read. So this is just one of the reasons, but I do have massive concern around the panel setup. So I don't want, I want to have some more clarification and understanding that if people have put through applications to a panel, that the governing body as a whole will still have a list of who put applications through and not just say, okay, they're all gone now, we're only showing them this section. So I want a bit more of a clear idea of how that is going to work before I can actually vote yes or no on this.
Councillor Leverett.
I'm just more in favour of a whole of council approach rather than just having a designated panel. That's basically it.
Anyone else talk on this matter? Councillor Tate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's mostly just a question of if we defer it, does that have significant implications on this coming round of funding applications and doing that in time for next year's budget?
Through the chair, yes, as we, as per the paper, we are working to, these need to be out and done and a month provided, so those applications can make it into the next extraordinary council finance committee, so that would impact the timing absolutely. Thank you.
So Director, does that mean if this was deferred, would we use the existing policy that applies, or would we, or this, if it was deferred?
Through the chair, if council was to defer this, we would default back to the
Existing,
which is in play.
Yes.
And obviously continue with those things that are in that policy that we've tried to address with this through this process.
Yeah, I just wanted, yeah, so there is a default position. Councillor Cobb.
Mr. Mayor, we've been discussing this for some time now, and my understanding is this is much better policy and procedures. It gives us better accountability, gives our community better understanding of the procedures. So I support this potential, the original.
So are you foreshadowing a motion or not?
Can I have a point of order, and may I please address that point of order as being, can the mayor stop leading councillors? Councillors need to actually do their code of meeting practice on their own without any lead.
I wasn't sure from what Councillor O'Connor said.
Sorry, I'm just raising that point of order. Thank you.
I was just highlighting that this is a policy worth keeping.
The
original, that's right.
The joint motion.
Not supporting the.
Excuse me, point of order. Can other councillors please stop guiding other councillors in our code of meeting
Any
practice?
further
It's not
discussion,
allowed.
Councillor Tucker?
I'd like to foreshadow the motion. If this fails, I will move the recommendation.
Thank you. All right, so we got the first motion down. Can we show it up, please? There's no further.
Can I have a right of reply one time?
Yes, once we see it up, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, I'd just like to get a little clarification of the general manager, if I could. By this deferring, are we able to have an extraordinary meeting around calling this earlier than our next general meeting in March? Could we have a workshop around this or an alternative meeting prior to that, just so to have some further clarification and discussion on the deferral there, and then so that when it comes back to March, we can have some clearer breakdown on it? Is that a possibility? I note that the Corporate Services Director has said it may impact, it's not going to impact the budget per se, because we already have the allocation. It's just a different policy and a different way and means of working that. I'm just trying to give some fairness to associations and organisations and get a clearer understanding of this panel and how that will exactly work. So would we be able to have an extraordinary meeting to discuss this, or a meeting in some regards, or a workshop between now and say the second week of March or third week of March?
Through the chair, I guess just to clarify some of those questions, we have had a policy lab on this initial policy. The community consultation, we actually did individual meetings with the majority of those that were affected by the removal of the recurrent funding, including the community associations, either via email, phone, or in person. The community member that you had mentioned that's may or may not have submitted a submission, we have not received it, but and I guess in terms of the panel, council ultimately retains control of any allocation to individual parties. That report would have all of the applications just have some evaluation matrix for the community and everyone to see as to what and how these have been graded. So by deferring this to while that process could happen, I'm not sure whether we would do that may not have been included at this point, but if that's what council suggested, I'm sure that we could.
Okay, well, I'm happy with Corporate Services Director discussion because we've had to listen to me this morning as well. And I put this forward and I understand if the deferral doesn't go ahead and I'm accepting of that as well. But I just thought, I just wanted those individuals that haven't been able to have those discussions could. So may the motion now be put. Thank you.
All right, put the motion as written. Council defer consideration of the financial assistance policy 2209 to the March 2025 ordinary meeting. All in favour? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Everest in favour, and the motion has failed, but we have a foreshadowed motion. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, that's what I was sticking my hand up for.
Yeah, make sure you don't steal up too quickly. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Is your foreshadowed motion